So with the recent death of Pope Francis, I, along with like every other Catholic and person in the world, has been thinking about the legacy that he left us. And there is this piece of earth-shattering pastoral glory that I think most people do not know about. And I want to tell you about it today because I think that if you are called to marriage, if you are discerning marriage, if you're already married, if you're watching this, I want you to know that Pope Francis, especially in this particular, very like nuanced niche document, saw you. He saw you and he loves you, and he did what he could to allow for you to be able to get what you are hoping for from the church in your vocation. So backing up in church history, in 1981, Pope John Paul II wrote a document called Familiaris Consortio. It was an apostolic exhortation on the family in the modern world. And in Article 66, he talks about marriage preparation, and he lists off multiple stages of marriage preparation. The 3 stages of marriage preparation are remote, when a person grows up in their home; proximate, when they're they're in a place where they're thinking about dating and discerning marriage, and they're wanting to know more about how to do it and how to be married and all of that; and then immediate, in the months and weeks immediately preceding the wedding. Okay, I've devoted most of my career to proximate preparation. So dating couples and forming people for marriage, and we've even developed a course around it. I have more courses in development. Like, this is a powerful thing that John Paul II wrote. But it was like a line or two in this it was literally Article 66 of this really long document, right? It's not a very big piece of church writing, but as like a master's level theologian, I found it, and I like have been spending my life doing what academics do and like kind of promulgating it in my own way. Well, Pope Francis also read that document, because Pope Francis used specific language that John Paul II used in Familiaris Consortio about having marriage be like a catechumenate. In the proximate preparation section of Article 66 of Familiaris Consortio, JP2 talks about a rediscovery of marriage as in the catechumenate. And we know that the catechumenate is all of those people who are coming into the church and walking that beautiful pathway to the heart of the Father in the Eucharist and in the sacraments. And so John Paul II called for there to be effectively this rediscovery of marriage as a catechumenate. So Pope Francis commissioned this document called the Catechumenal Pathways for Married Life that is based on these 3 stages of marriage preparation. And there are people who have been paying attention to the church as a whole who recognize this. People up at the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, other people higher up in the Vatican, people like that, who recognize like we need to be putting out things to help form people for marriage. But the average person, I would say, doesn't know that this happened. And there, in this introduction, well, it's actually the preface for the Catechumenal Pathways for Married Life. Pope Francis, he wrote the whole preface, and he has this powerful line that I want you to hear, because as someone who is discerning marriage, and as someone who feels really called to marriage, or any of you who are watching who are already married, you recognize that your vocation carries weight alongside celibate vocations. And bless the church. There's a recognition that there is a crisis in celibate vocations. We don't have enough priests. We don't have people willing to give themselves in service to the church through these celibate vocations. But what John Paul II recognized, what Pope Francis recognized, and what I'm hoping that in the next years and decades to come, the church as a whole recognizes, is that the married vocation also demands a lot of attention. So I will link the entire thing or put it in the description or something. I'll figure out a way for you to be able to read this down below. But basically, Pope Francis talks about how the church is a mother, and moms don't play favorites. And by giving celibates years of formation, and by giving married couples weeks of formation, the church has been playing favorites, and she's got to stop. And so he's introduced this incredible document that hopefully is setting the stage for amazing transformation in how we do marriage preparation, and amazing support for those people, those of you who are called to marriage. So I want you to go read that bit that Pope Francis wrote in that preface for the Catechumenal Pathways for Married Life, because I think that you will feel so seen by Pope Francis. And no matter what you think about what the media says about him or other things he said in his pontificate that maybe hurt you or were confusing or whatever, just remember that he saw you in your ache to be married and your ache to be formed for marriage well, and he loved you. And that is such a powerful legacy for those of us called to marriage.